All right, so look, you have your basic formulas. I don't expect you to go into great detail about, oh, this, that's water. There's 6 of them, but that means there's 6 of them. You don't change this number, or else you change the molecule. You change this. So your basic idea, and this is what I want you to jot down. Okay? You need to understand the language, and you need to understand how we're going to be using this. Here's the way to understand photosynthesis and cell respiration. Use the language. Understand that when I say reactant, I'm going to be saying in word problems, requires, needs, used. When I say products, I'm saying produced, given off, released, makes. Because what we're ultimately going to do is we're going to have you write an English sentence where instead of writing CO2, you'll write carbon dioxide. Instead of writing a plus sign, you'll write the word plus. What's required, what's produced, where do the products go? That's the way to remember this. And see, what we're going to do is we're going to go in greater detail. We're going to say, all right, now let's look at photosynthesis. It has 2 parts, something called the light and dark reaction, or the Calvin cycle is another name for the dark reaction. We'll talk about the photo part, the energy gathering part, the synthesis part. All right, so that's one of the things that we'll do. We'll look at cell respiration and look at, hey, it's got 3 reactions. One of them is actually 8 intermediate steps. All right? Okay? Now, so that's what you're jotting down really quickly. And again, the big picture is being able to say what's required, what's produced, and also what is, where do the products go after. Before we talk about the models, and so you guys copied this down. What I want you to grasp is start using this to help you understand the language, how to interpret. When we say it's needed, like on the couple problems we're going to be doing later, or it doesn't say, hey, what are the reactants of photosynthesis? We're going to say, hey, what does it need? That think needs, uses, requires, those are reactants. Produces, gives off, releases, makes, those are all products. So here's photosynthesis, the purpose, produce glucose. Look at how we wrote down this. Requires, and then we broke down, or we separated the products in between the thing that's given off versus the thing that's produced. They're both produced. What's required, what's produced, where do the products go? See, oxygen is going to leave that plant. The glucose might get stored or broken down. So here's photosynthesis. Now let's look at cell respiration. Same thing. We say it requires glucose, oxygen. It gives off carbon dioxide and water. It produces. Now, technically, gives off and produces are all products. But we're discriminating the way a chemist would do it versus a biologist because we want to identify the things that are going to be generated and used somewhere else. So before we look at the models, real quickly, all right, what's the difference between photosynthesis on the top and photosynthesis on the next picture? Pause and think about it. And don't tell me it's written smaller or it's labeled. Okay, so do like, here's 1, here's 2. 1, 2. How is photosynthesis written differently?
So in the first one it said that light energy was one of the reactants, and here it said that light energy was the thing that made the process go.
All right, so here it's listed as a reactant. And over here is written over the arrow, kind of like the project we're going to do in a second. Look, light, it's kind of like an enzyme. Are enzymes part of the final product?
No.
No. See, if you ask someone on the street, hey, what does photosynthesis do? And they say, oh, that's when plants turn light into food, slap them. No, don't slap them, but that's not correct. They use plants, the miracle of plants and photosynthetic organisms in general, autotrophs, is that they harness this light energy to synthesize the glucose, or an inorganic being converted into organic. So let's look at these models here. Look, I'm going to be using these for live demonstrations. So let's remind ourselves, what are the atoms? So there's glucose. What 3 atoms do you see?
Carbon, oxygen,
All right, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. You need to know that. All right? Now, let's look. All right? Is that organic? It's carbon and hydrogen. Remember your basic rule from the chemistry unit?
Yeah.
So this is organic, but it's not the organic molecule for living things. Is this organic? It's carbon dioxide. it's missing hydrogen. Now, as we do this, think about, oh, hey, there's 3 atoms here. That's one of the reactants. There's the other one. So there's your H, there's your C, there's your O that combine to make the glucose. Now you add in a little light energy. So let's do this. All right, so here's some carbon dioxide. There's some water. Add in some energy, and it's going to, and when it does this, it's going to give off some oxygen, and boom, glucose. It makes a foam sound. All right, hoorah. Versus cell respiration, all right, let's start with this. Bam, we got oxygen. We might need a little ATP to get it started. There's some, and wait, I said oxygen. I meant to say glucose. I get oxygen. I start breaking this down. I'm going to give off, get ready, give off some carbon dioxide that's going to be flying around the room. I'm going to pee out some water and get a whole buttload of ATP. Again, that's the model of ATP, not the scale. All right? Now, I've done that before. Sometimes say, oh, that makes sense. I just went from from photosynthesis all the way through cell respiration, because what we want you to grasp is the reactants of one are the products of the other. Look at the reactants of one are the products of the other, with the one change being the energy. And it turns out this actually generates some ATP, so it can synthesize this. The miracle is inorganic is converted into organic molecules that all living things can break down to get ATP. And that's the molecule necessary for organisms across the planet, single cell or multicellular, to be able to get energy.